You are listening to the Mark Guzman Podcast Experience. So let's talk about some marijuana myths here.
Love this section. Let's do it.
Yeah, so I have to give props to Sam here, our producer, for putting this together. And so basically what we're going to do is bring up a few rumors, facts, and other bits about marijuana and dive into how true or false they are. So myth number 1, marijuana kills brain cells.
Oh, great. So the marijuana kills brain cells was a result of the Reefer Madness campaign. This has since been disproven by many studies across the country and across the world, really. So the irony actually is that, it's been shown that it could be effective for protecting the brain cells against regenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So to say that it kills brain cells and when it actually might protect them is a little bit ironic and sad. That being said, teen use and adolescent use is never recommended just because the brain is developing.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, that I did see a study that showed the negative effects of marijuana die off at around 24 years old when the brain is fully developed. But prior to that, it can, and not that it always will, but it can affect the actual development of the brain.
Yeah, the brain chemistry, absolutely. Those early years are, very transformational for children and, for humans. So, anything that you're going to introduce during that time can potentially affect the brain chemistry. So.
Okay, myth number 2, marijuana is bad for your lungs.
Oh, fun one too. So people used to think that marijuana caused cancer, lung cancer. It doesn't. It actually might protect from lung cancer. Now, there is throat irritation caused from smoking, and, people who are heavy consumers can have decreased lung health. This is possible. Now, the way to mitigate that or avoid it is to use something like a vape pen, which is going to have less effect, or an edible.
Yeah, and some people will use papers that can also affect. I know they even have organic papers now and stuff that is better for you. Yeah. But yeah, the papers that you use.
Well, it's the combustion too of the plant, right? You're bringing in that raw material into your lungs, and you're bringing the lighter fluid also if you're holding down a pipe or something like that. Which is why we're seeing again a lot of our consumers transferring from flowers to vape pens or to edibles.
Yeah. And if you don't want to use one of those lighters that you buy for 50 cents at the store, they have organic wicks that you can use.
Hemp wick, which is I love that they're doing like hemp wick, and then those organic papers are usually made from hemp, so it's kind of like the full circle of like the plant.
Yeah. And then edibles. If you're really worried about your lungs, you can always go to edibles.
Certainly.
So myth number 3, you can't get addicted to marijuana.
Okay, great question. So cannabis is not physically addictive like heroin or caffeine, but it can be psychologically addictive like anything. You can be addicted to online shopping.
Food.
Yeah, food, anything. So it can be physically or mentally addictive, and, I think the latest study said that about 1 in 10 consumers is likely to develop psychological dependence.
1 in 10? Mm-hmm. There was also an interesting study where they looked at the percentage of people that try hard drugs that actually get addicted to it. Mm-hmm. And they determined about 16% of people that do a hard drug get addicted to it. Mm-hmm. So, it's very interesting, like this study, like addiction, and to see those results come back, because it's not always about the actual product
Exactly.
itself.
It's about the human psyche and the brain and whether or not that person does have an addictive personality.
Yeah, if you look at countries, Portugal is doing this right now, where they decriminalized all their drugs. Mm-hmm. And if you're caught with drugs or as a drug user, instead of sending you to prison, they put you into rehab programs. Now, the rehab programs are very interesting because they're completely different than what we have here.
Yeah.
Where they try to figure out, well, why are you using these drugs, and how do we fix those problems? And they're starting to see that it's really just about, hey, how do we get you back into society and bringing up your self-worth and what you can contribute to society?
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Portugal is doing a fantastic. It's like really, really encouraging to see that being a successfully and just well thought out, program. It's not about demonizing people or, punishing them. It's about understanding why they got to where they are and just helping them be, contributing members of society, be a part of that. So drug use isn't necessarily about the drugs.
Yeah. And I think we need to see that mentality shift here in America, because I mean, a lot of the addiction problems would be solved with just a mindset change on how to just change the normal rehab programs.
Yeah, and so BPG is one of the founders of Americans for Safe Access, which is now in over 50 states and Washington, D.C. here. And then there's, like the Drug Policy Alliance is doing really, really great work right along those lines of Portugal and bringing to the forefront in America, and helping our citizens understand what's going on in Portugal, what's going on in Israel, and how we could also be doing these things and benefiting from them. It's really great.
Okay, myth number 4. Now that it's legal, I can smoke wherever I want to, whenever I want.
Oh, please don't. So one of the things with legalization is that, if you do smoke in public, which you are not supposed to, it's like alcohol, definitely don't smoke it near a school. Definitely don't, smoke it where you're not. But the penalty is a $75 ticket, whereas before it was incarceration. So that's, I think, a really great improvement. Now, the first week I was in San Francisco, never having been to the West Coast, I will say that I was in downtown and there were people smoking joints and there was a cop right there and he didn't even bat an eye. So that's really cool to be somewhere where the police aren't necessarily trying to, cramp your style.
Or buy a $50 ticket and go to a reggae festival.
There you go.
Thank you for listening to this podcast short. For more podcast content, be sure to subscribe to all of our podcast channels on YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Libsyn, Castbox, Podbean, and literally anywhere else you listen to podcasts.